Moonshine Jesus, the bright sky. Moonshine Jesus, baby, alright. Moonshine Jesus, a surprising delight. Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
Hello and welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show. You were tuning into our Distilling the Gospel podcast. This is where Mark Sandlin and I, we take a look at the text for the week and give our first impressions and thoughts and general ramblings and musings.
I think ramblings is a good word. That's a good
That's right.
word.
Maybe we should change the name and be Rambling the Gospel.
Rambling the Gospel.
So we wanted to do something a little different this week. We normally do the gospel text for Sunday, like the assigned gospel text, but two things are happening this Sunday. One, it's the blessing of the animals. So that's what happens in a lot of your liturgical mainline churches. You go out and you sprinkle water on pets, and people bring their pets to church. Some people do it in the afternoon, some people do it in the morning, but people love it. People love it, right?
Yes, they do.
And it's a lot of fun.
It's interesting.
And it's interesting. And it's also the saint day of St. Francis of Assisi.
Papa Frank.
And so we thought, since we missed the boat on doing a podcast about the Pope being in town, we would dedicate our Distilling the Gospel to Papa Frank's
Absolutely.
Original Papa Frank.
Exactly. From whence he got his name.
That's right. So, if you're familiar with St. Francis' story, it actually makes for an interesting time and connection with Pope Francis. So, just ignoring what you have in the text, like you do blessing of the animals that day. You're talking about creation. Ecology is a big part of St. Francis's kind of hagiography, so to speak.
Right. Yep.
And that's one of Pope Francis's big messages. This would be a great day to connect those two things, in my opinion. Like, if you need an excuse, a liturgical excuse to talk about, climate change and the threat that carries, this is a great day for it.
It couldn't be much better. I mean, if you're going to be talking about Francis, that's it right in the wheelhouse, man. I mean, it's a big part of what he felt like mattered and based it very solidly in biblical text.
Absolutely. So, but if you're reading the gospel, that doesn't have much to do with it.
No, it really doesn't.
So the gospel text for St. Francis's feast day is Matthew 11:25 through 30. And I'll be really honest, man, I am so surprised it has nothing to do with poverty or giving away your money, because that's such a big part of St. Francis's story. I'm really kind of surprised by the text that we've been given. Yeah,
I think the only thing that maybe points towards Francis in any solid way for me would be verse 29 about "for I'm gentle and humble in heart."
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Other Come than to that, me, all you that are weary and carrying burdens, and I'll give rest to you.
Yeah.
I almost might change the gospel reading. I mean,
go
seriously.
For
it. I don't know. There's part of me that looks at this and goes, this doesn't speak nearly as much to who Francis is than a lot of other stuff in the gospel. I would think that even the kinds of things that inspired Francis, the original Francis, to become, who he was, it wasn't this verse of scripture. It was this bit about selling everything you have and giving to the poor. It's such a dramatic story.
Right.
To be able to talk about that, to be able to talk about consumption and wealth as feeding into climate change.
You just trash the whole thing and do what you want to do.
We're going completely off script. We're not doing the regular gospel. We're not even doing the gospel assigned to what we're doing.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
I would too. I'll be honest, I would too on this case. I don't think that the text assigned really helps much in terms of if what you're trying to do is talk about Francis and who he was and what was kind of the most important trajectory of what he was trying to help us understand about the gospel. This reading almost does the opposite.
Yeah, I don't think it's helpful at all. Yeah. I think it kind of distracts from Francis's core messages and the things that he was all about. I mean, there are so many great kind of hagiographical stories. We don't take everything that happens seriously. These stories, I mean, they're not literal stories.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I don't necessarily think they happen, in history, but
Sure.
they say they're great tales that speak to deeper truths, like the idea
Absolutely.
of preaching the good news to the animals, which is where we kind of get this blessing of the animals thing. Like, it could be really fun to talk about what the good news looks like for the rest of the creatures in the world in a time of climate change.
Right.
I mean, I guess you'd have to go to a pretty liberal church to do that.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. The truth is, climate change has become a really important thing in a lot of conservative circles as well, because I mean, particularly in the South, it's you're seeing more and more folks who particularly like hunters, who are becoming very concerned about what we're doing to the environment, because that's part of where they get their enjoyment in life, is out in the environment doing the things that they enjoy. And we're destroying those habitats, which makes it difficult for them to do the things they want to be doing. So we are actually seeing an increase in that. So I don't know. That might be a topic that plays okay at any church, as long as you're careful about how you come into it,
Yeah, you'd call it creation care, not climate change.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
They both start with 2 C's, but it's just clever rebranding. I mean, this also goes into a book that you and I have read that's coming out in October.
Oh, man.
Diana Butler Bass's new book called Grounded,
Yeah.
talking about the ecological crisis and talking about the connection the earth and the connection our environment has to our faith. I mean,
Exactly.
it's a beautiful, profound, and amazing book, but I feel like it's very much in line with this.
It is very much in line with this. Unfortunately, it doesn't come out until after this Sunday. But you know what? I do think though that'd be a good thing for us to come back to in a different show, because that book is so rich. There's so much there. I really think we could almost do an entire show talking about what happens in that book. It's astounding. Anyway. We'll get back to that.
But I think sometimes people are scared to talk about the environment in church because it's become this political thing. But the environment shouldn't be political, because it's where we get our sustenance. It's where we get our it's where we live.
It's pretty much one of the very first things the Bible talks about.
Exactly. We're to be stewards of creation. You had one job. I gave you one job, human.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good opportunity to talk about, over the past 100 years since the Industrial Revolution, how quickly we have depleted just the natural resources and beauty of the earth.
And a good place of even entering into it is the fact that Pope Francis was just here. I was in a slightly more conservative church just a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about my Pope crush. Well, yeah. I was surprised at the number of people there who come up to me afterwards and talked about how much they like the Pope.
Exactly. He's a great dividing figure between kind of conservative and liberal camps in a way. Because both camps have stuff they don't like about him.
And both camps have stuff they like about him.
Exactly. So it's a great place to say, look, here's the Pope. He's the head of the Roman Catholic Church. All this is in traditional Orthodox Catholic social teaching. There's nothing extraordinary about this.
He's finally talking about it again.
Exactly.
That's kind of what's going on.
I mean, and he's been one of the biggest drivers, I think, of the religious conversation in recent months, really, about climate change and about ecology and about capitalism. He's the person who's driving so many of these conversations and making them part of the normal conversation of faith.
I would say that he's the fuel. He's the engine.
Yeah.
I mean, these conversations were happening, but when and in volume, but it wasn't until he started coming into it that it got it was lifted up as a primary conversation
in mainstream, not a hippie liberal thing, but like a
you
really
calling me a hippie liberal?
thing.
Are you calling me a hippie? Because it's okay if you are. It's all right. I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, you're from that era, right?
That's right. Oh, ouch. That really, really hurt.
I mean, for the record, we should just say that Mark does all the technical side of the podcast, and I have no idea how to do any of it.
And David says
every time we joke on Mark's age and my youth, it's hilarious because really we operate in reverse roles.
David's like, hold on, I need to go get my ink pen, and it's like a real
fountain
pen, exactly.
Let me go get my fountain pen and my vinyl records. How do you put together a podcast? I have no idea. Anyway, we've got to veer off track here.
How do you put together a podcast? You're talking to a mic and Mark takes care of it.
Exactly. You just
It's easy. Why don't more people do this?
podcasting is the easiest thing to do.
Okay, we've the train's off the
We're well off the tracks here. Okay, so all right, so if you're gonna talk about the Pope, Pope Francis,
the Pope.
Are you gonna talk about some of the more problematic things, like his stance on women,
LGBT
marriage, that kind of? Are you gonna mention that in your sermon or in a discussion about this? Like, where does that fit in? Because we love the Pope. He's a great figure. He really exhibits this humble kind of quality, rebranding of the papacy.
Right.
But there's still some problematic
There's some pretty
stuff.
serious issues with him. Yeah, absolutely.
I
I think you have to decide what you're doing, because if you're just using him to introduce Francis of Assisi and you want to talk about ecological stuff, then no, you're thinning your conversation and spreading it far too wide. Yeah, which David,
you're doing a 45-minute educational talk,
right? You don't need to do that. If you're talking about the Pope, I don't know how you can talk about him without bringing up both sides of.
Where does his canonization of what is it, Juniper Serra, the really controversial colonizing saint, does that fit into a conversation about ecology? I mean, where does colonialism fit into this idea of ecology and climate change? Because I think there may be some connection there, depending on your content. I
think that's a good point. It's a good way of bringing in the. Actually, I would say so. It has an interesting connection point to how the economy impacts ecology. That would be like a stepping point that you could enter into and start talking about how you don't think about that political and socioeconomic things actually have a deep impact on our ecology and our environment. That might be a nice place to make that bridge.
And kind of the theology of land in a way, because if you view land as something to be conquered and something to be owned instead of something to be shared and conserved and stewarded, then like that's another point of connection that, we've for the past 200-300 years, we've had this very colonial, like, what's the word I'm looking for? A domination idea of our relationship to the land. So you could bring it in there too.
Yeah. I think that would work if you wanted to. I think, again, you have to be careful about how much you're trying to put into this conversation, though. But if that's the direction you're going in, that would be a nice way of stepping into it, using some kind of contemporary context.
Wait. But are you suggesting that we shouldn't try to cram everything we're passionate about into one sermon, Mark?
I know that sounds crazy, but yes. Yes, I am.
But it is a temptation, though, to be like,
I need to talk about this because this connects. Ooh, and that too, it connects. Yeah. No, I'm saying I'm very much from the school of stay focused, say it once, stay focused, say it once, and say it in a memorable way and get out of there.
I'm very much from the school of bring props and then drop them. But, that's a totally different
That's a different story.
But anyway, I guess I don't really have much more to say about St. Francis except make sure you bless all the animals. I love this service because it adds a very kind of unpredictable element to it, and that's always really a lot of fun. It gives you a chance to be flexible and kind of have some laughs. And
I've always heard that you shouldn't work with children and pets, and this is the perfect opportunity to do so.
Children, pets, and props. Anyway, all right. Well, we've in true Francis fashion, we've chased many rabbits during this 15-20 minutes, and we appreciate you hopping along with us.
Yeah, and while we didn't do it, maybe you should go read Matthew 11:25 through 30, since that's really what this was supposed to be about.
dead.